Shalom. I am Rabbi Nathan Davidovich speaking to you on behalf of the webyeshiva.org, speaking to you from Efrat, Israel. I'm going to talk about this week's Torah reading, which is Parsha Bo. And in this Parsha, we have a continuation of the 10 plagues that God visited on the Egyptians because they wouldn't let the Jewish people leave the land of Egypt. And one of these plagues is the plague of darkness. And this particular plague and the commentaries relating to it are very relevant to what is going on in our lives today. Oftentimes, we seem to see that there is a fog in front of us, that with all the things that are happening, it looks like the world is engulfed in darkness. How do we navigate that? So for the answers to these questions, let's look at what the Torah tells us and what this choshech, this plague of darkness, was about. First of all, the sages tell us that the darkness was palpable. It wasn't a darkness that just is an absence of sunlight, but it was a darkness such that even if they would light, if the Egyptians would try to light a candle, it wouldn't light. It was darkness that you could feel. But despite that darkness, the Torah says as follows: Lo ro ish es achiv, v'lo komo ish mitachtav shloshes yomim. Says, referring to the Egyptians, one person could not see his brother. Nobody could get up from their place. They were frozen in place. Shloshes yomim, for 3 days. But then it says, L'chal b'nei Yisrael haya or b'moshvosam. For all of the Jewish people, all of the children of Israel, there was light in their dwellings. And the sages tell us that what this means, their dwellings, means that if a Jew lived next to an Egyptian, the Egyptian would be in darkness and the Jew would be in light. Furthermore, if a Jew went into the house of an Egyptian, the Egyptian would be totally in darkness, but the Jew would be in light, even in the house of the Egyptian. And the question is asked, what is the significance of this light being within all the dwelling places of the Jews? And where did this light come from? So the Or Chaim HaKodesh, the holy Chaim Atar, he says, when the Torah tells us that the Egyptians couldn't get up, couldn't move from their place, he says the light was actually originating in the Egyptians' home. When it says, Or b'moshvosechem, light in their dwellings. What does that mean? He says, the meaning of this verse is telling us that our sages tell us that the wicked envelop themselves in darkness. So we can understand, says the Or HaChaim, that darkness was something subjective, that the Egyptians were evil, and because of their evil, they experienced darkness, whereas the Jews were good, experienced light in the very places that the Egyptians experienced darkness. And the Torah alludes to this by reference to the word b'moshvosam, within their dwellings. There's an important concept that we learn about light and darkness. And this is certainly very relevant to what is happening today. First of all, we see a sentence in the prophet Yeshayahu in Isaiah, in the 60th paragraph. It says, "V'holchu goyim la'orech u'malachim lingoa zarchech." Nations shall walk by your light, kings by your shining radiance. And we learn from that the general principle that the job of the Jew is to be an or lagoyim, a light into the nations of the world. To be a light, you have to have the goodness within yourself to spread this goodness to the world. That is the job of the Jew. And the Shadal, a commentary on Yeshayahu, he says what this means, that the nations shall walk by your light, is that through the children of Israel, through the Jewish people, light will come out and benefit the entire world. Now we know that Moshe Rabbeinu went into the darkness. And what happened? He was ready to go up to Har Sinai, to Mount Sinai. And the pasuk there, the sentence tells us, Moshe nigash el ha'arafel. Moshe went into the Arafel. Arafel is the deepest level of darkness. There are basically 3 levels of darkness that the Torah talks about. There's Anan, Choshech, and Arafel. The Egyptians had Choshech, which was similar to Arafel, was very thick. But Moshe had no fear. He went into this darkness, into the most intense darkness. He wasn't worried. The fear of navigating in the dark did not worry him because he had emunah. He had total emunah, belief and trust in God. So he went into this darkness. Moshe nigash al Arafel, asher shama Elokim. And what did he find there? He found God there, teaching us that we can get through this darkness and understand that this darkness contains God's love for us. That's where we find God in the darkness. The Tibot Shalom looks at the words of the sentence that we read, Haya or b'mosh v'osam, there was light in their dwellings. And the Tibot Shalom says, when the Torah tells us there was light in all the dwelling places of the Jewish people, this refers to a unique level of light that is normally not accessible, but only in the, quote, dwelling places. What is the dwelling places? He says the dwelling places referred to when the Jewish people sit as one, united. In that case, they are able to access this light. An example of this, he says, is when Jews gather together and sit together on Shabbat. That brings this great light to their houses. By being united as a Jewish people, we can access the light, and we can bring the light and spread the light of goodness, the light of righteousness to the entire world. That is our job. Our job is to benefit the world by our light. We do that by acting in unity, not with divisiveness, not arguing with one another, but loving one another. My blessing to all of us is that we shall take this message of unity and spread light through the darkness in this world so that we will completely extinguish the darkness. Thank you for listening on behalf of the webyeshiva.org. I wish everybody a wonderful Shabbat.